right, whenever you're ready.
I don't know if we've used this in the past, but
You've used it now.
It is 6:30 on January 29th, 2024. Welcome everyone to the special meeting of the Library Commission. This is a hybrid meeting with commissioners, city staff, and members of the public participating at the Menlo Park Library in accordance with public health guidelines for in-person meetings and members of the public participating remotely. I would like to introduce the commissioners and staff present. From the Library Commission, we have Commissioner Ada Chen Reiki, Commissioner Alan Cohen, Commissioner Carol Horton, myself, Vice Chair Singh, and Commissioner Jennifer Wise. And the staff present include Library and Community Service Director Sean Reinhardt, Assistant Library and Community Service Director Nick Shegda. Nick will be helping facilitate the meeting. Nick, will you please take a moment and provide instructions to the commission and members of the public on how the meeting will proceed?
Thank you, Vice Chair Singh. For members of the public who are attending this meeting virtually and wish to provide public comment after the chair calls for public comment on the item you wish to speak on, please use that raised hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If those of you who might be calling in from a landline or cell phone, please press *9 to raise your virtual hand. For members of the public attending in person, there are speaker cards available on the table back there by the agendas. Please complete one and bring it up to me before public comment is called for the item that you wish to speak on. There are a large number of public commenters. The time limit may be adjusted by the chair in order to allow everyone a chance to comment. When your turn for public comment has arrived, staff will unmute you. And with that, I'll return the meeting back to Vice Chair Singh.
All right. Item C, presentations and proclamations. We will begin tonight with a presentation on outdoor book return graphics. Wow. After the presentation, ask Nick if there is any public comment. I suppose that was for my internal monologue.
That's right. That's your inside voice.
It's all right.
So I turn it back over to Nick.
I will take it from here. So thank you, Vice Chair Singh. We would like some input from the commission tonight on some design options for our outdoor book drop. Our current book drop wrap is looking a little tired. It's getting near the end of its life. The vinyl wraps that we have on the book drop, the same sort of vinyl wraps that they put like the advertising wraps on cars and buses, they last about 5 to 7 years. Costs about $1,500 or so to get it wrapped. And we last did this about 6 years ago. So quick look at the current state of the book drop. You see there's parts are covered up by signs at this point. And it's starting to bubble in some places, but mostly it's just regular wear and tear. And you can see there's some sort of tape marks and things on it there. The current design is kind of a simple branded design that's based on a library card design that we had at the time when we got the book drop wrapped. So we asked the city's design team at Tri-Pepe Smith to come up with some alternatives for a new wrap for us. The first one they came up with is this book stack, and there are opportunities to put titles of books onto this wrap. We were thinking maybe we could have a contest or have people put suggested titles in. It might be fun. Just zip through here a little bit. You can see it just has stacked books and then the library logo on the front of the drop. I have some, these are, they made these sort of on-site mock-ups for me, but I can let you look at the a little more detailed picture of the design if you're interested in looking at a little more details a little later. And the second one is what I'm calling the adventure option. So each side has a different sort of scene from a book. I think this would be really appealing to kids and kids at heart. Here we have sort of an ancient Greek or Roman side. The front of the drop there has the library logo, like a bookmark and an open book. On the back side, we have sort of a pirate island, and on the right side facing front, we have like a scene from outer space. Just another sort of angle of it with the front and the right side. And then we have sort of classic ones. So this basically recreates the current design of the drop with a couple of little twists. There's this sort of bookmark holding the city logo, and then a little bit more of a nature themed sort of silhouettes over the other sides. So this is the classic A, I call it. And then the classic B is the same as the classic A, except it doesn't have the scene, the side with the librarian reading to children. It has just the city's tree logo. That's it for the presentation. Happy to answer any questions after we call for public comment, and also happy to pull up some more close-up images if you guys would like to see those. So at this time, if you would like to make public comment on the book return graphics presentation, please notify the staff liaison by using that raise hand function at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you're dialing in, you can press *9. If you're here in the library, please fill out a comment card and bring it forward. Seeing no comments, back to you, Vice Chair Singh.
Just for clarification, is there anyone on the line?
There are a couple of attendees online, yes.
Okay, great. All right, opening up for comment.
Yeah, so I noticed that none of the designs had the information that you keep taping to the structure itself to sort of say the information, like if as soon as you put a new wrap on there, the first thing you're going to do is slap a sign on there with tape. You might want to leave a space for it on the front.
That's a really
Or-
good point.
or
I
even
was gonna
better
ask
yet,
the
print it
exact
on
same
there.
question,
Yeah,
Do you
like
need
print
that
it on
thing you
there.
tape there?
I think we taped that on, that started during the pandemic, when our hours changed, and we taped that onto it. But now those are our hours, and they've stayed that way for the last year and a half. So
But isn't one of the signs to remind people to not leave stuff, like when that's closed, don't leave stuff sitting there?
right, there's some of
So-
that too, yeah.
So it seems to me that the people who work here in the library and who sort of empty that or arrive on a weekend or an evening the next day and see stuff piling up next to it, probably know what signage you need there, because there's inevitably always repeat customers that leave stuff there. So maybe that would be my only suggestion, would be to take the opportunity when you wrap this to make it look aesthetically more pleasing, to include that in the place where you think it's best, and it may be in the front somewhere off to the side without distracting. And if you need a vote, I like the book stack, but all of them were lovely. And I think serve a purpose. So that's all I got.
Great, it's very good points.
I like the book stack. And I also had the question, are people putting other things besides books inside the drop?
Oh,
Is that
sure.
what the purpose of that
Well,
was?
yes, that's happened. We librarians sit around and tell war stories about what we found in the book drop, but mostly it's we lock the book drop when the library is closed, because it will overflow, and if no one's there, it will get too full. If no one's there to empty it, then people start leaving things piled on top or outside. Those can get damaged, they can walk away. So we don't have overdue fees anymore. So it's disappointing if you can't return a book when we're closed, but it's probably better just to hang on to it rather than have it get damaged or
Okay.
lost.
I didn't realize that it was locked when the library was closed.
Yeah, you would think that, I mean, it's a pretty big bin. It's basically fills up the inside of that drop. But fills up pretty fast,
Yeah.
about 150, 200 items, and that's not a lot, really. We do 1,000 or so returns a day.
Are you looking for us to vote, or this was just a,
It's not a vote per se. We just want to hear your feedback because it's nice if we're showing it to each other and we all think that's great, but no one thought to put like, well, why don't we put what we stick on the signs on the book? So that's why. Also, we thought it was kind of cool and thought you might like to have a
Yeah.
chance to have your say.
I think they're all so fun. I think all of them would be great options. If I had to choose one, I actually really liked Adventure because I thought it was very visually arresting and like, just seeing people and figures is like a little bit more engaging and playful with like where reading can take you with your imagination. I also liked the book drop, but was a little concerned that the branding around the books felt very tight. It was like Menlo Park was kind of crowded in with the books. And that you kind of end up reading the text because it's a bunch of books of like the spines as opposed to kind of seeing pictures, and it's just seems like such a natural place to put art. That was like the only reason I wouldn't have chosen that one.
I agree. I like the adventures one as well. Did you all come up with the design?
They were created by, the city contracts out their graphic design to a firm called Tri-Pepe Smith. And so they were the designers at Tri-Pepe Smith who came up with those designs, which are pretty cool. Yeah.
all right?
All right, Vice Chair Singh, I know we're not voting, but it's 2-2, so you could weigh in and.
No pressure.
Well, no pressure at all.
If you really want to hear what I think about this,
Maybe we don't.
I don't think you do, but now that you give me the opportunity. The drop-off bin is in a location where cars, I think you purposely did this so cars can drive by and drop their. I bring my kids here all the time, as you know. And if you have a compelling design on this thing and the kids stop and they're like looking and this, that, and the other, and there's cars coming by,
Good point.
like, if I were redesigning this thing, I'd put it closer to the front of the library. I'd have people come, you could do amazing artwork, you could have a competition for the kids and have them design the thing and so on and so forth, but since we're not voting.
No, but those are really good
Interesting,
points. I mean, if we have a compelling design, kids will, I've noticed that there can be at times. Because I walk everywhere, so I'm not driving, and if I'm walking by and putting something in, people are driving up, it can get a little dicey sometimes.
Yeah.
People aren't flying around that corner or anything, but still, to the extent that we can avoid car-ped
Yeah,
interactions, all the better.
yeah,
I'm not sure what
Yeah,
involved
no,
in.
that's actually a really good point. And what people do tend to do, it's like going to one of those parking spots where you have to push a button and wait
That's
for the
right.
thing, but you don't want to scrape your car
Yeah.
against the thing.
yeah,
So you're just a little, I don't know about you, but I have short arms. So you have to then open up your door to get the thing out.
mhm,
That's what tends to happen at that thing. I see people whipping around, but then they basically park their car, open the door and start emptying their trunk.
yeah,
And then the cars start to pile up and it can get dangerous.
yeah. And
So-
it particularly because it's at the end, like, that's how you get from the parking lot to the library. Kids have to walk in that direction,
Right.
so,
It's a really good
you know,
point.
Maybe even relocating it. We'd have to get another concrete pad poured, but that's not an insurmountable problem. Okay, so I hadn't thought about that.
There you go, but no tiebreaker though.
That's all right.
well, I like the spines of the book. So, there you go, there you go, there you go. All right, shall we move on to section D, study session? D1, Library and Community Services Department Strategic Plan Updates. The next item is D1, a study session for Library and Community Service Strategic Plan Updates. Sean Reinhardt will introduce the item.
Thank you. So there was a pretty good amount of information in the packet. And some of it you did see, I believe, in November. So just had kind of a brief PowerPoint here, just to walk through the main concepts. And then we'd love any feedback that you might have. There's no decision or recommendation being made tonight. It's really just to kind of transmit it to you. So we're in the process of updating the department strategic plan. We're recommending that tonight just review and provide feedback on the proposed strategic plan, which is attachment A in the packet. The strategic plan is a living document that should be periodically updated. It was last updated in 2021. There have been a number of significant changes and events since then, such as our ongoing recovery from the coronavirus pandemic. There are some new economic uncertainties in the city's long-term budget forecast, and of course, we're anticipating the opening of the Belhaven Community Campus. So all of that leads to it's time to update the strategic plan. As before, we're proposing 8 strategic directions. These are kind of the major dimensions of the plan. They're quite similar to the 2021 version, focusing on customer service, the new Belhaven Community Campus, responding to community needs, being an efficient and effective department, developing our staff, engaging the community, developing programs that are really focused on people, and emergency relief and preparedness. That one in 2021 was really very, excuse me, COVID-19 focused, and now it's a little more generalized. What's here is just kind of an example of the task matrix. There are many of them throughout the plan in the packet. This is just to show the different elements of each of the plan. So that strategic direction being the kind of top line item. Underneath that are various goals. In this case, there's goal 1.1 for collecting customer satisfaction data. And then each of the goals has various tasks. Those are the rows. And then there's description. They have a start and an end date, or if they're ongoing, they just say ongoing. And then we have a performance metric associated with each. And of course, there are many goals. I think there's about 3 dozen of them underneath those 8 strategic directions in the plan. We also prepared a scorecard. This is taking the strategic plan from 2021. It did have goals and tasks and end dates and performance goals. And so we added a new column all the way on the right, which is in the red font. Also in the packet is attachment D. And just to indicate how well we did toward each of those goals. Were they achieved? Are they pending? Did we make no progress? And so on. Just another item to kind of help as we think about the plan over the next month or two. There are some related strategic and master plans that have some bearing on the department's plan. The city council each year sets priorities and their goals. I believe they're doing that again in March. The Parks and Recreation Commission has their work plan, as does the Library Commission has their work plan. The Parks and Recreation Facilities Master Plan, excuse me, the Bedwell Bayfront Park Master Plan. These are all that have some bearing in particular as it relates to the Belhaven Community Campus. And then we have a few questions. I think this is the last slide. Looking over the plan, are there any goals or tasks that should be added in the coming year? Are there any goals that are of particular interest to the Library Commission for maybe an in-depth future review? Are there any questions or comments about the scorecard from the 2021 plan? And any other feedback that you may have would be welcomed. And that's the presentation, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
At this time, if you'd like to make a public comment on item D1, the Library and Community Services Department Strategic Plan Update, please use that raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you're dialing in, press *9. If you're here in person, fill out one of the comment cards and bring it up to staff. Seeing none, Vice Chair Singh, I forgot to mention at the top of the meeting, this is a special meeting, which is why there's not the public comment portion of the meeting on items not on the agenda. According to the Brown Act, for special meetings, there aren't general public comment sections. So, but we can take comment as we go along.
Great. All right, so with that, public comment is closed and we will open the item for commission discussion. Any of my fellow commissioners have any comments?
One of the areas I was particularly interested in was like on the strategic direction on having a two-way communication and outreach with the community. I saw in our develop and implement a coordinated social media messaging strategy. It got put on hold.
Yeah, our public engagement manager at the time, that sort of fell to them to do, and it didn't get accomplished. We have a new public engagement manager, just on the job about a week and a half at this point.
Okay.
So we're meeting with her tomorrow to start to talk about some of the items that we have kind of on our punch list as a department for things that we want to implement. Some of them will definitely be about social media. And I think just sort of philosophically, the former public engagement manager was interested in sort of a tighter control on the messaging. And so we didn't really have a kind of a robust social media presence, I would say. And that's, you know, that was just their choice.
Yeah.
So we certainly would like to be a little more freewheeling, and I can understand how that might make the public engagement managers perhaps a little nervous sometimes if we're just kind of out there like a loose cannon.
Yeah. And
So
I think the reason why it caught my eye, and it just is just sort of like from my personal experience, where I think the city does an amazing job, like sort of with the effort it takes to distribute like printed materials in the mail. So I definitely see, like, you know, getting the booklet and the mail of all of the different activities, or like little postcards when like other things come up. But when I get my email newsletter of all of the different library programs that are going on, it's amazing, right? There's like so many wonderful things that are happening, but often in at least the community that I'm in, which is probably a lot of moms of young children, we're not really getting that. I think like often the awareness is quite low within the city as far as like the fact the bug lady is here, or that there's a dress up event. And honestly, parents are always looking for things to do with their kids. And so, but they're finding out about these things from even stuff like posting it as a Facebook event, you know, sharing it on your Instagram stories, like, you know, giving someone an easy channel to follow so that the night before you're like, oh, okay, yeah, let me go ahead and plan on doing this the next day. And so it feels like there's this great opportunity for access there that I just wanted to highlight.
it's a good point. I think in one of the earlier iterations of the strategic plan, we were going to ask the commissioners and other sort of affiliate bodies to like help us with some of those things, like posting on Nextdoor and things like that, where the city has a Nextdoor account, but they really only use it for things like flood alerts or, you know, very sort of not, I mean, important, very important information. But I think the strategy there was to sort of, you know, keep it very clean and very tight,
Yep.
the messaging.
Question, Nick, the emails that the library sends out that list all those activities. Do you just, I know I get it. I assume I get it because I signed up to get that on the city site where you pick what you want to get. But so does it take that affirmative action by Menlo Park residents in order to get those newsletters?
Yes, correct. You have to
Okay.
opt into them.
Yeah, because I know there are some local publications that put some of that stuff in, but
I think In Menlo picks up a lot of
Menlo
our
picks
stuff.
up, yeah,
The Almanac will do it occasionally.
yeah,
And John Weaver, who's our senior program assistant, is often pushing things out, you know, sort of press releasey kind of stuff. He posts a fair bit on Facebook and Instagram. But
but again, on Instagram, somebody would have to choose to follow does Menlo Park Library have an Instagram account?
yes, we
Yeah.
do. Yeah, on Instagram, you can use
Mhm.
certain tags so that if you're searching for kind of local events or library events or things like that, you'll stumble across us. But it is kind of tough to get the sort of social media momentum going.
Yeah.
We need a viral video, I think.
Mhm.
Some, I think
TikTok.
some dances is in my future, some embarrassing dance is in my future.
So I had a question as I was looking through this. I'm just curious, how should I understand like how much resources, like how many resources you're allocating towards achieving these different objectives? Because presumably some of them merit more attention than others, and how do I read these documents and understand that?
You know, that's a good question. That's not really an element of the strategic plan as far as like, you know, enumerating what kind of resources would go into it. So like just on a case by case basis, we would have to kind of make that assessment. This is really, a lot of it is really focused on like the daily operations of the department. So there is that consideration of just what are the existing resource constraints, how many staff do we have available to do these things. Many of these things are things that we are kind of always doing, you know, delivering customer service, being prepared in the case of emergencies, preparing for the Bellhaven Community Campus. So, and we've tried to, on the staff side, really make these achievable and realistic within our current resources.
All right. Any other comments, commissioners? All right, so staff, I believe you will be recapping and laying out next steps.
Yes, thank you. So later on the agenda, there's a discussion about the Library Commission meeting calendar. What's proposed there is for a joint meeting with the Parks and Recreation Commission next month that would really be focused on the Bellhaven Community Campus. And so we're thinking that the strategic plan could potentially come back in March for the Library Commission to potentially make a recommendation.
And perhaps, and I've talked to Nick about this offline, but when we talk about the need for a joint meeting on whether we actually need that, I'd love to hear people's feedback, but why don't we carry on to section E, regular business. Item E1, approving October 25th and November 13th meeting minutes. Nick, do we have any public comment on this issue?
This time, if you would like to make a public comment on item E1, approving the minutes from the October 25th joint meeting and the November 13th meeting of the Library Commission, please use that raise hand function at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you're dialing in *9 to raise your hand, if you're here in person, fill out a comment card and bring it forward. And seeing no comment at this time. Back to you, Vice Chair Singh.
Thank you. Would a commissioner like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve the minute.
Commissioner Cohen has made a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Chen Reiki has second. All in favor?
I gotta do the roll call, I'm sorry. Because it's because we have folks who are online listening to the meeting and they might not be able to see, so to make it as accessible as possible, we do the roll call. I apologize, it does get a little tiresome sometimes to have me call all your names when it would be easier for you just to raise your hand. But with that, I'm gonna call all of your names. Commissioner Chen Reiki, how do you vote?
Approve.
Commissioner Cohen, how do you vote?
Approve.
Commissioner Orton, how do you vote?
Approve.
Vice Chair Singh, how do you vote?
Approve.
And Commissioner Wise, how do you vote?
Approve.
The motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to section E2, approving the 2024 Library Commission meeting calendar. Nick, I believe you will be providing a brief introduction to this item.
It will be very brief. So the background to this item is time to time, because our normal meetings are third Mondays of the month, we run into a conflict with a holiday. It happens in January and February of every year, and we need to move the meeting. Sometimes when we move that meeting, and this month it was the 15th and the 19th are the meetings that are moved, we to another Monday, like the fourth Monday, we come into conflict with the planning commission. The planning commission meets, I wouldn't say irregularly, but they meet more frequently than once a month. They'll schedule meetings sometimes to deal with projects that are coming before the planning commission. And the library commission and the planning commission get into some conflicts. So in the making an effort to try to avoid those conflicts, we also thought, why don't we just make a schedule for the entire year, and that way everybody can have some certainty. I know things can change, but proposing a meeting calendar for the entire year would give, I think, both the commissioners and the public a much better idea of when we're going to meet. So looking at this tentative or suggested commission meeting calendar on the screen, 29th of January is today. We are suggesting a joint meeting on the Parks and Rec Commission meeting for next month, because we would have to move this Monday meeting in any case from the 19th to the week of the 26th. Things pretty much staying normal. When we get to May, this joint meeting was meant to be at the new Bellhaven Community Campus facility. So a chance for both commissions to meet there in the new building. And then pretty much normal-ish until we get to November and December. Thanksgiving, so this meeting, are we suggesting, Sean, here the 25th?
Yeah, one thing that's not shown on this calendar, although it's in the packet, is the planning commission's meeting schedule. So when you see like in November, the reason why the 18th won't work is because the planning commission has scheduled a meeting on that date. So in order to have a meeting in November, the only other option really, because the 11th is Veterans Day, the 4th is only 2 weeks after your October meeting, would be November 25th.
And then in December, staying away from the week of the Christmas holidays and doing a joint meeting on the 18th. As you've experienced, sometimes those December meetings don't happen because there might be a lack of business at the end of the year, or there might be difficulty getting a quorum of commissioners. That's one of the challenges of having a joint meeting, is you need a quorum of each body individually, not a quorum of the sum of both bodies.
Just another comment about December, though. In years past, in the before times, before the pandemic, the December meeting or sometimes the July meeting would actually adjourn fairly quickly, and then there would be like a reception or sometimes dinner, so that the commissions could just mingle in a more social way. And so the December 18th, that's still 11 months away, but that potentially could be what that meeting is sort of signifies. And since folks have to come together for the meeting, oh, hey, we're already here, let's go ahead and transition to maybe a social event.
Stop this, but I can pull it back up if we need it.
Well, I have a question. That is the
Yeah,
same
I
as what-
think
Yeah,
he's gotta check with the public if they have
Oh,
any
sorry.
comments, and then we can.
So at this time, if you would like to make a public comment on item E2, approving the 2024 Library Commission meeting calendar, please use that raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you're dialing in, press *9. If you're here in person, please fill out a comment card and bring it forward to staff. See no comments online, so sorry for the interruption there, Commissioner Orton. Back to the commission for discussion.
Commissioner Orton?
oh, I have two questions. One is my primary one is I'm questioning the joint meetings with the Parks and Rec. Those are very difficult, cumbersome meetings, and maybe I have PTSD from our recent experience with the Bellhaven Community Center hearings. But I just wonder how productive that is to have those two commissions meet together, and is there really is it possible to facilitate meaningful progress on issues by meeting jointly, other than the convenience of avoiding two different night meetings for you guys?
Well, that's something we don't consider that much, because that's sort of night meetings are kind of part of the job. That's okay. So that's not the reason for them. It's not for staff to avoid having two meetings in 1 week. Because there have been issues that have come up that are sort of straddling the purviews of both commissions. That's why we would have the joint meetings. So in the past, in 2023, there was the naming issues that were coming up, which were of interest to both commissions. And there were also the sort of programming discussions about what kind of programs staff were thinking of developing for the new campus. So it's envisioned that the meeting in February would again be, it's getting sort of the last pre-opening meeting where the commissions, we could bring anything that had come up kind of before we opened and sort of give a check-in as well on how things were going, what it might look like.
So follow on to that is, I think we're all aware that there are a couple vacancies on the Library Commission, and I believe also on the Parks and Rec Commission. What is the timeline for new commissioners being considered and appointed? And will those people be on board before some joint meeting?
I believe so. I think the Parks and Rec Commission had a new member appointed earlier this month, and I believe that the Library Commission appointment is either
February
3rd,
February 13th.
February 13th. So it's
That's when they're
possible.
deciding.
Yeah, that's when the council will make the appointments. Usually it takes a week or so for folks to work through their Brown Act training and get sworn in and stuff like that.
And do you think a joint meeting is a good time for new people to join each of those commissions and have a joint meeting be their first meeting?
Well, I mean, at some instance, we kind of got to get folks in
Yeah.
there. I mean, but your point's well taken, and an earlier discussion that I had with Vice Chair Singh about sort of the utility of having joint meetings when maybe what is being considered is not necessarily of great interest to the Library Commission or the library commissioners. So I think that's fair. I think that's a fair criticism. It's a fair point. And so I think then it's incumbent upon staff to make sure that there actually are things that we're discussing at those joint meetings that are of interest to both commissions, or we either don't have them or they're very short. So if we don't have things for those joint meetings, you know, then we don't want to have them just to have them.
And they have been fairly frequent in the past 18 months because of the Bellhaven Community Campus project. And I know that the naming in particular took quite a bit of attention, but that project is now getting very close to opening. So to Nick's point, point well taken. The topics covered at the joint meeting should be relevant to both commissions. Preparing for the start of operations in the new center later this spring. Seems like a very timely topic for both commissions to talk about. How are the library and childcare and recreation functions kind of going to interplay? Also, we'd love to have a conversation about grand opening festivities at the February meeting. And then at the May meeting, right now, the tentative schedule is for the building to, if not be open to the public by then, certainly usable for a commission meeting by then. So we thought it would be nice to have an inaugural joint meeting accompanied by a tour to the facility for both commissions.
So would you mind pulling up what you had notionally on?
Oh, yeah,
there?
sure.
So it looks like the next one that you had planned was February 28th for it to be a joint meeting. And I guess the proximate question on the table is that actually germane to both of our commissions? Is there anything there you think that will be relevant for us to deliberate on?
Yes, preparation for the startup of the Bellhaven Community Campus and really how the library hours and programs are going to function and how they're going to share spaces with other functions in the building, like, for example, the senior center and the youth center will make use of the makerspace. The youth center will make use of the children's library at times. And so there's a lot of crossover there that would be pretty important, I think, for the two commissions to really understand and to give us some input about. And since the building, right around then is when we anticipate taking ownership of the building. And and then 60 to 90 days later being open. So we'd really like to have that touch point with both commissions in February so that we can then complete the preparations and open.
Is the location here or is it?
We haven't
at the
just,
Bellhaven
we haven't
Library?
landed on a location yet.
Okay,
I think we'll have to poll the commissions to do that. We certainly will want to have the May meeting at the Bellhaven Community Campus.
Any other?
I mean, I think for what it's worth, prior to the naming conversations, we have had a number of meetings at the jointly, and it's actually been fairly productive with good information, and it hasn't been as dramatic and lengthy, I think, as some of like the more recent meetings. I think what, I think it just comes down to like just making sure that we can get quorum, because we have one meeting where we didn't have quorum, and it would also be helpful to kind of just make sure we're really auditing what the agenda is to make sure that, you know, we're making the best use of the time. My only concern with the frequency of the meetings has been, in the last year, we've had a number of them, and then we end up editing out the schedule such that it, you know, coming back to this, you know, strategic plan, for example, we don't have time to revisit this until March or April because of the joint meetings kind of creating some roadblocks to that. So as long as they're not too frequent, that would be helpful.
Now, just curious, with the February meeting, for example, could it be the case that you presented independently to each of our commissions, like without us together? Because the topics that you've discussed seem like you're informing us of certain things that will happen, and then you'll want our opinion. I don't know that having the other commission next to us will change or benefit necessarily what our opinion is, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, my sense is that typically when there are multiple stakeholders who have kind of a shared sort of interest or project or concern, that the conversation around those interests or concerns typically are more productive and efficient when all the stakeholders are kind of in the same dialogue, because it's kind of in that exchange of ideas in real time that that's when I think you go a little bit more in depth, you get a little bit richer insight, and sometimes even that's when some of the best ideas come out, and also when like potential pitfalls or red flags are most likely to be noticed, because in the course of conversation, you know, one of the other stakeholders can say, hey, did you think about this? What about that? So I think there's that element that that synergy that happens just because when the conversation is dynamic and everyone's in the same word bubble, if you.
All right. Do we need to? Doesn't look like we need to take a vote on this.
Well,
Yeah,
I don't think we would mind having a vote on it.
Oh.
It's
we,
just a,
let me just jump in. We would actually recommend that the library commission adopt its calendar so that these dates are secured. To avoid any future potential multiple meeting conflicts from other commissions that maybe also meet on Mondays, like, I won't name them, but there are other commissions. So by setting the calendar and approving it, I think you've pretty much posted it up, and that would be beneficial.
All
Yes,
right.
well, there you go. I think that and street parking is what I'd like also.
All right, so I guess, do we need to take any public comment, or should I just open it up for a motion to approve the dates that are on the library commission calendar?
Yeah, we did take public comment on this item and there was no comment. So yes, if you would be so kind as to open for a motion to approve the meeting calendar.
Would someone like to make a motion to approve the meeting calendar?
I'll move to approve the meeting calendar. as
Commissioner
presented.
Orton moves to approve. Can I get a second?
Second.
Great, Commissioner Wise seconds.
I
Nick,
will-
do you want to do
I
a
will
roll call?
Do my
or-
roll call vote.
But if we do it unanimously, then you don't have to do a roll call, right? Because more or less everyone.
I
will.
think they want us to
Okay.
call. I know, I'm sorry. I know it can
Well,
feel
I
tiresome.
got guidance from Commissioner Cohen that we should move
Oh,
expeditiously.
well, I'm
so-
gonna go very quickly through this time.
I'm gonna vote.
The motion on the floor is to approve the 2024 Library Commission meeting calendar. Commissioner Chen Reiki, how do you vote?
Approved.
Commissioner Cohen, how do you vote?
Approve.
Commissioner Orton, how do you vote?
Approved.
Vice Chair Singh, how do you vote?
Approved.
And Commissioner Wise, how do you vote?
Approved.
And the motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Okay. We are moving now to section F, informational items. Informational items are transmitted to the Library Commission in staff's effort to provide an update on matters of importance to the commission. Informational items are not action items. However, a commissioner, city staff member, or a member of the public may request to make a comment or ask a question on any of the informational items. Section F1, Bellhaven Community Campus updates. Sean, I believe you have the distinct honor of providing a brief introduction to this item.
Yes, thank you. There's no presentation. However, staff is available to answer any questions you have about the items in this informational report. There's no action requested for informational reports. So I'll just quickly go through. There is a summary of the Bellhaven Community Campus naming decision by the City Council on November 14th, and also the affirmation of the 5 major program names, including Bellhaven Library. There's also an update on the operating budget approvals on December 5th. City Council approved operating budget and 3 additional full-time equivalent staff, plus funding for hourly staff to open and operate the new facility. Let's see, I already spoke a little bit about the construction and opening timeline during the calendar discussion. I'll just add a little more detail to that related to the furniture and equipment, which is the last item in here. Right now, we're targeting furniture and equipment being delivered and installed starting in February. Large equipment, including the book sorter and book returns and appliances, also in February. Tables, chairs, desks, and other movable furniture in February and March. Other supplies and small equipment, such as basketballs and pool floats and things like that, pots and pans for the senior center, coming in April. And again, kind of targeting potentially opening in the May timeframe. And that's a summary of the information report.
Great. Nick, do we have any public comment on this item?
At this time, if you would like to make a comment on item F1, the Bellhaven Community Campus updates, please use that raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you're dialing in, please press *9. If you're here in the library, please bring a comment card forward to the staff liaison. And I see no comments from our attendees online and none in person. So back to you, Vice Chair.
Great. Fellow commissioners, any comments?
I have a comment that, I just wonder if it would be productive to have some kind of, review of how things went forward or sideways, in the naming process and in the manner in which there was a city council directive for 2 commissions to have multiple hearings and much public comment. And then there was a parallel subcommittee on the city council. And I don't know how many of you listened in on that hearing, but I was left with feeling that there were a lot of community members and commission members who wasted their time. And were, it was always understood that the city council had the ultimate decision-making authority, but I thought they would at least acknowledge the suggestions and the work that had been done. And it seemed to me that it wasn't. And I just wonder if there's some learning that could be had by how things didn't go well. And a lot of people in the community and commissioners felt dissatisfied with the transparency of the process. And I know our former chair wrote a very, I thought, thoughtful memo with his thoughts on it, and I don't know whether that was shared with anybody on the city council. I spoke to a few people on the city council as a person, not on your behalf, but on my own behalf. But I do feel somewhat dissatisfied that it feels like there's a big elephant. And I would like to avoid anything like that happening again. Somehow we should learn something from what could have been handled in a more transparent way.
I couldn't agree with you more.
I agree as well. Did you all have the opportunity to speak to city council, or has there not been a discussion?
Well, the extent of discussion from staff to city council, at least at this level, really took place during the November 14th city council meeting. So we really haven't had the opportunity to debrief further about it. The city council did not take up a suggestion that some community members made to revisit the decision. So there really hasn't been additional conversation about it. Just like kind of thinking back to the conversation, there were sort of in real time sort of references to maybe some flaws in how the process kind of unfolded. But I haven't been privy to conversations like afterwards, such as what I think you're asking. On the staff side, I do think, from our perspective, in hindsight, it did seem that there was a disconnect between sort of people's expectations as like how their feedback would be utilized in the process and what like kind of ultimately happened. So looking ahead, how can it be done better? Really establishing very, very clearly like what are the expectations for the engagement with the community? Are they being
purpose.
asked to,
What
what's
was
the
the
purpose?
purpose
What's
all those
the
meetings?
yeah, exactly. Is
You
it
know.
to simply provide input that may or may not be a factor? Is it to actually make the decision? Is it somewhere in between? I think being a little clearer on the front end is one thing that's come to mind. It's probably not the magic fix going forward, but it does seem like maybe more work could have been done there.
Who is the new liaison to the library commission on the city council?
I
is
believe it continues to be Jen
Is it
Wolfson.
still Jen?
I believe so, yes.
Yes.
Would there be a productive way that you would recommend that we could share our feedback on the process? Or maybe we could write an email. I don't know, and like we could all sign off on it, or I don't know that anybody did forward.
I don't know. Do you know whether Chair Velica Patuti, I can't pronounce his last
Chair
name.
Bomsies.
Yeah, Chair Baum, yeah. Whether he shared that with
Yeah.
the city council or was it just with you? Because I know it was a draft.
That's
comments.
my recollection. I thought that he had,
Yeah.
to be honest, I can't
Well,
say
I
for
know
sure,
I
but that was my
verbally shared
impression
my
at the time.
own
Yeah.
With 2 members of the city council who were my contacts, but not with the entire.
Mhm.
I mean, I think, so I agree with everything that's been said. I think generally speaking, it really brings into question the credibility of this commission, the credibility of you as city staff members who were at the event and orchestrating and emceeing it or, running it. It brings into question the credibility of the city council. I mean, talk about, not only was it a colossal waste of time for all of us, but talk about the dignity it had to the people that spent several hours pouring out their emotions at us, who we're not elected officials. And so I think if you are to convey something, I would even underscore that the loss of public trust in commissions like this and commissions like the Park and Recreation Commission and the city services who represent the city, like that to me is quite important. And so I think if you can communicate that as if you are doing something like this going forward, if it is a exercise to release some pressure, which I've been around enough government bodies to know that that is what that was, but there is some serious reputational damage that's happening as well.
I agree with everything you just said.
Yeah, and in case you were wondering, you throw another log on that fire. Carol, my impression is that if our thoughts and opinions and involvement in the process that we were asked to do was valued, we would have had the courtesy of a follow-up directly
Right.
to this committee, which we did not. And as soon as that didn't happen, that said everything I needed to know. There's a reason I also didn't attend that last meeting. Because by then my sense was this was all just political theater. So I'm with you. I hear you. I concur.
You know, perhaps we can invite a counselor or two to one of our meetings and have it section F1 be dedicated to a conversation with them, just to provide them feedback. I mean, we're not going to jump on them and tell them to leave office, but just let them know that here's how we saw the whole thing transpire. And here's, you know, we'd love to hear from you as to, did we miss something? Did we not understand something? And if not, then we need to have an honest conversation about what needs to happen going forward. I mean, if I were in your seats, I would be upset. You know, you're the city representatives, you were sitting there. So I think we should have that conversation.
Well, on that, I believe that the city council liaison to the library commission is Jen Rolison. And I know that she is responsive when commissioners, such as like the vice chair, were to reach out and extend an invitation like that. I think it's been a while since the city council liaison came to a library commission meeting. I occasionally see them at some of the other commission meetings. But I think in the absence of a like direct invitation, they tend to want to stay back so that, you know, because their presence could sort of, you know, not be conducive to the commission just kind of doing their work on typical everyday items. I think that's kind of generally their stance, let the commissions do their work. But if called upon, you know, I found all 5 of the city council members and Jen in particular to be responsive to overtures like that.
Maybe the mayor would be a better representative to come.
I think to the extent that the next meeting is a joint meeting, that could actually be a great topic because it affected both commissions.
That's a great idea.
Or the subcommittee.
Here you go. Yeah, email me.
I'm more than happy to email them, and I could get their contact from maybe Nick or Sean.
Oh, absolutely. It's actually on the city's website, so you can just for your awareness, when you email the city council, it becomes a public document. So it's not like you're sending an email to their inbox. It's posted on the city's website.
Yeah.
That's
Great.
when you send it to all of them, right? If you just send it to an individual one, it just goes to that.
That's correct. I think you're right.
So if you send it to city, you know, and maybe it's one that should go to the whole city council so they know what's being requested and they can decide who to send. Just thinking that, you know, this was really primarily the subcommittee was operating in parallel and the mayor was the one who, the current mayor, the former mayor, was the one who led the charge on what should happen. So maybe she would be the best person to clarify.
does seem like heads are nodding around the table from all the commissioners, so it seems like you're sort of have a consensus around like making such an invitation, which would seem like the appropriate person would be Vice Chair Singh, although you all could identify anyone to do it, and individuals could. Since there does seem to be consensus, it's possible to say in the commission reached a consensus that we wanted to make this overture. So,
Yeah, let me suggest something to my fellow commissioners. I think we should have it fairly structured. Like invite, whether it's Wilson or Betsy Nash or whomever it is, and say, this is what we want to do. We want to give you 5 or 10 minutes to walk us through what you think happened. And then we want to give our feedback on what we think happened. And we then want to give you recommendations going forward, because I don't want it to turn into a session like what we actually had at Bellhaven.
Yeah.
Like that is a total waste of everyone's time.
Yeah.
But I do want the elected official to feel the recourse of like, we need to understand what you were thinking. And then we want to provide constructive feedback on a way forward.
Should we also email the chair of the Parks and Rec committee to let them know that we're
I mean,
planning on doing this, or?
I don't, so my,
Is there a new chair or is
Yeah,
there
what-
vice chair also?
It's, no, Mayrin Bunyagit is the chair of
Oh,
the
she
Parks and
stayed
Rec
on.
Commission. And it's not, I don't know that it's necessary that you, I mean, if you extend, I think the commission is it's perfectly fine to extend the invitation on your own. But you could give them maybe a courtesy heads up.
and I would say if the suggestion is to make the invitation for the February meeting,
Yeah, that's
that
what I
being a
was-
joint meeting, then I would say copying the PRC chair
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
I would avoid communicating to like the full commission, because then you might get into Brown Act serial
Yeah.
meetings, but certainly like, chair, vice chair.
I like your suggestion of adding structure to the request.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's necessary to name a name or a person of like who we'd like. I think it would be great if we had a member representing, like an individual who can represent the city council to join, ideally at this meeting or one of our future meetings would be
Right.
fantastic.
And by having an agenda there, so someone won't show up and say, well, I'm actually not the person
Yeah.
that can answer that
Right.
question.
mhm.
Yeah.
So it becomes more political theory.
So I'm happy to write an invite. I defer to you guys if anyone else wants to write the invite and.
I have the agenda.
I'd keep it snappy and to the
Yeah.
point.
Yeah,
And it'll be very sober. It won't be. I'm not attacking. We just
Yeah.
want to invite you. We want to have, so, okay, so. Am I allowed to share that by email with my commissioners?
What I would recommend is, at a minimum, you would only blind copy the commissions, but probably better would be to send it through staff like
And I
Nick.
can
And
blind
then
copy.
Nick can
everybody.
go ahead and do that. It just gives you that extra layer of assurance about any Brown Act concerns.
And so you'll send it to the various council people that,
Oh, no, I thought you were talking about the communication back to the commission. I would recommend that reaching out to the city council directly,
Got
that's perfectly fine. When it comes to looping in,
Like, here's a
other
draft of what I'm
commissioners?
going to say. or
Got it,
something
got
like that.
yeah,
Send it
that,
to me and I can BCC.
yeah,
so if he sent you a draft and said, this is what I'm thinking about sending to the city council. Are you allowed then to forward it to us and we can give our feedback to you to relay to him, or is that's too many, that's
I
too much?
would probably avoid that if
So it's
there's
on
a
you.
consensus to sort of entrust and Vice Chair saying to convey what you've sort of talked about. You said you keep it pretty short, basically extend the invitation.
yeah.
What
Okay.
staff can do then is turn around and forward out that invitation
Great.
back out by blind copy, so that just everyone has the heads up.
Great.
Are you feeling like you need some support? And in that
No.
case-
I just wanted to make sure everyone
We trust you.
Yeah.
had their
Okay.
input.
Didn't
So-
feel
Yeah,
strong.
Yeah.
I think the message is pretty pretty straightforward, so.
All right. Any other comments on this topic? No. All right, let's move on to item G, individual commissioner reports.
So through the chair, just we skipped item F2, which is the department updates
sorry.
and stats. Again, informational, we're starting to get, we have a whole year now of many of the statistics, so we can start to now build on that and look at things sort of year over year going forward. Just a heads up, I've found those statistics useful. I don't know if you have, but I use them. We applied for insurance, the city did, and one of the things they wanted was the registration, the number of participants in the childcare program. So that was right there. I just looked at our December statistics and it was all right there. So we hope you are finding them useful. And the responses to the suggestion box items where you can kind of get a little bit of flavor. So I like kind of having the two together. What are people asking us for, and sort of statistics from the programs.
Great. Do we have any public comment on the item?
If anyone would like to make a comment on item F2, the department updates and stats, please use that raise hand function at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Dialing in, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. I think they're both virtual. Someone is actually raising a physical hand. And seeing no comment. Back to you, Vice Chair.
All right, opening it up to the commissioners. Any comments? Seeing none, moving to section G, commissioner reports. Would any commissioner like to make a short report out on items of interest to the entire commission?
I have nothing.
Seeing none, item H, adjournment. The meeting is adjourned at 7:40 PM.
Oh. Nice.
Emphatically. Thank
For
you all.
a guy who doesn't wield the hammer that often.
Strong arm.